Hello and welcome to a new episode of Game Informer's GI Game Club. Hey, we're here. We're back, everybody.
We are.
I say we're back, but I'm with the newest crew of people imaginable.
That's
This is a rookie posse
It's
if
like
I've ever seen
and
one.
hires.
I love it. I will finally get to know you three through the course of talking about BioShock.
We don't know each other already?
Well,
I'm hurt,
not
man.
intimately
That's a
enough.
bummer. I've been here nearly a year.
I think
We
he
should
means
know
we
each
as
other.
in the audience.
That's right. It's a
Oh.
formal
Oh.
introduction.
Very Sander Cohen of you.
Welcoming you to the
Exactly.
world.
I am the Sander Cohen of this podcast.
So we're joined by Elise Favis,
Hey.
Suriel Vazquez,
Hi.
and Javy Gwaltney.
What up?
Javy Gwaltney's still here, I guess.
Yeah,
That's the
I'm
best
still
part.
here. I've
Unfortunately.
survived.
That's right. So we, in this segment, are going to talk all about BioShock 1. The remasters just came out. We're going to talk about the game up through Fort Frolic, which, according to one forum I saw somewhere, is like 40% of the way through the game.
That sounds
Elise,
about
you
right.
look stunned and confused.
We were supposed to play through Fort Frolic.
Oh, you
I
just played
thought it
up
was,
to it?
yeah.
You and a
Whoops.
lot of the community are confused about that. I totally
Okay.
get it. Maybe I worded it in a confusing way. It doesn't matter. You remember Fort Frolic, right? Okay. Vaguely?
It's been a while, but
Okay.
I like
Yeah.
the way you say Fort Frolic. It
hey,
sounds
whatever.
like
I
Fort
got up
Frolic.
to
Frog fraction? What?
Frog fractions?
How do I say it?
Like fork. Like Fork Frolic.
I thought that's what it was.
Cork Frolic.
Anyways.
Did you say Cork Frolic?
We should stress, are not going to spoil things beyond Fort Frolic for
Right.
people. I have maybe received one or two emails from people where it's the first time playing through. There's
Oh,
not
wow.
too many of them out there, but we are doing this for you guys as well. So no spoilers for anything beyond that. And this includes for myself because I've never played BioShock.
Wait. You
I'd
never played
appreciate
it?
No.
Like-
I played, according to Steam, 27 minutes of it back in the day. And
Oh,
at some
wow.
New Year's party, probably back in like 2000.
1959.
That's right. Back in like 2008, I think I was drunk and played it for like an hour and just
That's
these
the way you
puzzles
should
are
play
dumb. Exactly. So we have a ton of emails from the community. I have a ton of my own notes. You guys have brains filled with thoughts on the first half of BioShock 1.
We have hot takes.
So
the
many hot
hottest
takes. Just to get the boring technical stuff out of the way, a couple people wrote in just talking about the remaster and their experience with it. So I figured that's a good place to start.
All right.
Well, first of all, before we even get to remastered and tech stuff, Oliver writes in and says, hey, just a quick tip for everybody. People can start a 7 days free trial for PlayStation Now and play the first BioShock for free. That's what he's doing.
Mhm.
And so if you want to trigger that and then cancel your PS Now way, I guess there's a possible avenue for playing BioShock 1 for free.
Well, as someone who has played like BioShock on different versions of BioShock,
Yeah.
like multiple times, I have to say I think the PS3 version is actually the worst one, which is the version you would be playing with PS Now.
Interesting.
So,
Last case scenario.
yeah,
How long or how many times have you played BioShock? Let's go around the table here.
6.
Holy
Wow.
Lord. All right, I expect you to be an expert in everything. Suriel?
This would probably be my fourth or fifth.
Holy cow. Elise, how you doing?
I've played once, and I don't think I actually beat it.
Oh, all right. I'm glad you're on board. This is the full range of the
and
spectrum
the first
here.
time I played, I got so freaked out by the medical pavilion, which is like the first area,
Mhm.
that I just couldn't go further.
Oh,
And I
interesting.
went back like a year later. I'm like, no, I gotta go forward, and I still never actually made it way through.
Yeah, they dive headlong into showing you like how scary that place is with
Like
Medical Pavilion.
Steinman freaks me out.
Oh, we're going to get to all that.
Yeah, well,
There are
Are we
plenty of
gonna-
emails
Are
about
Are we going to
Steinman.
tackle it chronologically then? Or just
Not necessarily.
Okay.
Roughly, Game Club kind of
Okay.
goes with the flow. We'll see how it goes here. But let's see. Carter writes in and says, hey, Al, I was thrilled to hear your choice of BioShock for Game Club, but 2 hours into the PC remaster, I've given up. Stuttering, drop sound, crashes, entering new areas have discouraged me. I'll wait for the hopeful patch. Still looking forward to the conversation because the game is excellent. Yeah, I'm playing on Steam, the remaster, and it. At first, I'm always in the camp of like it's never that bad as people say. It's fine, but it got to a point where it is crashing constantly.
Mhm.
The sound's a disaster. It's basically all mono, so I can't tell where people are coming from. It basically sounds like Minecraft. We just hear the sounds of zombies, and it's like they could be 1,000 yards away. They could be right next to me. I don't know what's happening.
Oh, good.
really?
Yeah, sound glitches all over the place.
My
What about you,
gosh.
Suriel?
I mean, I'm playing it on Steam, and I don't want to be that guy who's like, well, it didn't happen to me, so it's
Yeah.
not a problem. But like the biggest issue I had with it was there's one part in Neptune's Bounty where I would just walk through a vent, and there would just be like this weird red glitchy area. Like this whole area would just light up red all of a sudden.
Oh, weird.
Like it was just like they had just run it through a red filter.
It's the red light
Yeah,
district.
like a
of
red
Rapture.
room basically.
Right.
But it was only when I was in the vent. When I got out of it, it was fine. And then when I got back in the vent, that whole area would light up. But other than
Huh.
that, like I've been having like no issues at all.
What are you guys playing on?
Oh, go ahead.
Oh, I'm on PS4.
Yeah, PS4 too. I've only had one glitch on PS4, and it was when a door opened and something was going on because I could cross through like this weird texture glitch where it showed Rapture on the outside, like you would be looking at like the cityscape, but you cross through it and you were like, oh, just in a normal room. It was very startling for a second, but that's the only glitch I've run into.
And that's you can just say that's the ghost. It's all within fiction. Yeah.
Oh yeah. That's intended.
Yeah. Elise, yours is okay?
Yeah, I've really had no problems.
So Emmett Watkins is also playing on PS4, and they say they've run into a few bugs. Resuming the game after suspending it about 25% of the time, the game is frozen on its pause menu. This also happened in the middle of combat, but only twice, but it unfroze after a few minutes. The weirdest glitch came during Fort Frolic in the casino room. After hacking a safe, I backed myself into a corner and was stuck there. Not wanting to replay another 20 minutes, I could only kill myself and respawn at a Vita chamber to resolve it. How would you kill yourself?
Explosive.
Oh,
You have a
yeah,
grenade.
that's a good point.
Yeah.
As far as the remaster overall, Jonathan from Indiana writes in and says, okay, so the game looks great, and I appreciate them adding more aquatic life from Rapture. When it works, it's immersive. But the problem is that there are schools of fish that are completely static in places now, and that breaks the sense of realism so hard. It's kind of hilarious when you catch it. Luckily, there's a lot more that works that doesn't. What new creatures or backgrounds have you guys noticed? Oh, and someone please bring up the starfish. There are so many starfish. Apparently in the remaster, they added a bunch of starfish, like clinging to glass and stuff. That was a big complaint for people. It was like, cool it with the starfish. All right,
I have
get it.
not seen a single starfish.
Really?
I haven't noticed it. It could totally be there.
Okay.
But I just guess I'm not that observant because I'm looking at like textures and stuff, like how they've been upgraded.
Well, what do you guys think of the remaster overall?
I'm glad I can play it on my PS4.
Yeah.
But like, it feels pretty much the same. It looks pretty much the same to me because I played it on PC.
Okay.
Like, last time I played it was like 2 years ago, and it was on PC, and it looked nice on that. And this continues to look nice. So
And sounds really good.
yeah, it sounds amazing.
It sounds incredible.
You guys have surround sound? I'm so jealous of you guys.
I was using headphones. So
Yeah, I was using headphones too.
I'm using headphones on PC. Suriel, you're playing on PC with headphones and you have surround sound?
I think so. Like I've definitely noticed people like walking behind me and stuff, and like, I would just
have
see shit.
not.
Huh.
And I even went into like the ini file and tried to tweak it because there's a bunch of mad hacks out there.
Right.
But 2K sent posted a blog post saying they're patching the hell out of
patch
all
should
these
be
versions
like
and
before the
whatnot.
end of the week or something.
So definitely for part 2, things might be a little bit smoother and won't be quite as rough.
I think the biggest difference for me in playing it has been like the FOV, like
Yeah.
the field of view. Like you can play it with a much wider field of vision, so
Mhm.
it'll be something where your hands are like in the center, and then there's all this extra space, and then the quest arrow, which I actually turned off this time because
Oh.
that's how much it was bothering me. Is like it's kind of near the center of the screen because they basically just expand it out, but the
Right.
arrow's still in that top area where it used to be.
Yeah.
So now I was in the middle of the screen, so I just turned it off.
Okay.
Yeah. Have you guys noticed maybe like this is the first time since I've been playing since like the 6 times I've played it, like I've really been focusing on the protagonist's hands. And like
Yeah.
obviously I've seen like the chain tattoo before, but like his grandpa sweater that he wears, like I
What?
just become transfixed on it, like that white sweater that he's wearing.
I never even noticed it. You can just see like the edge of it.
Yeah, you can see like
When he's holding the shotgun, you see like his entire like forearm.
Oh, really?
yeah, and
Okay.
it's totally like a sweater my uncle wears at Christmas. It's hilarious.
I wish all the characters would like touch on that. Like Atlas is talking to you throughout the course thing, and then when he sees you for the first time, it's like, Jesus, what's with the sweater?
The
Yeah.
thing I noticed is how often, if you're holding the wrench, you'll do the little like
Just idle animation?
Yeah, there's this
Yeah.
little like whacking on the hand thing.
Yeah.
He just
Oh, the
does it
whacking on the hand
yeah.
thing.
Yeah, you know, like this.
By the way, get up on that mic more, Suriel. You're
Okay.
kind of drifting off.
I like how since we're on the wrench, like whenever our character knocks on a door, he doesn't do it like a civilized person with like his
Yeah.
hand. He just goes.
Yeah. Well, that's part of BioShock universe. Like, you know, remember how Booker always like hit the button for the elevators and
like,
stuff, just like beat the hell
Everyone
out of it,
is
like
an
Little Mac?
asshole when they are announcing their presence.
Aggressive.
I think that's the overall core tenet for BioShock is BioShock : everyone's an asshole.
Everyone's an asshole.
That's how it works. So before we dive into a bunch of great emails from the community, what do you guys think so far? JV, going back for your 50th time,
Yep.
what are the big impressions going back to this game?
I mean, you know, it's like any other game that's got some years on it. There are timeless qualities about it, like obviously the story. We'll be talking about that later.
Yeah.
The atmosphere, like the Rapture, is one of the best settings ever in a video game, I'd say. There are some things that, as the years go on, you notice how like sort of clunky the shooting was. Like back in 2007 or 2008, whenever it was originally released, you wouldn't really notice that much because shooters, especially on console, weren't that fluid. but now it's clunkier. Like trying to move the machine gun anywhere and like sticking on targets, it's a bit of a hassle.
Do you ever use the aim down the sights?
Yep.
That is included in that game.
Yeah.
Everyone seems to forget.
How?
No,
Where is it? I've never
Click on
seen it.
the right stick.
Right stick.
Hang on, let me write this down. Right stick. I
But
had no idea.
It's not good.
Yeah, it's not good at all.
You move at almost the
it's-
same speed, and it takes a little while to line up. It's not
Yeah.
like automatic, and it's not good.
Yeah,
Okay.
but like the shooting's kind of poor.
I've actually had the opposite experience with
Okay.
that. Going back to an older game, I mean, we just went back to Deus Ex, and that's from 2011.
well.
I was just overwhelmed by how clunky that was.
That's that's a bad example.
Yeah,
I would go as far as
exactly.
say the new one's a little clunky, but that's not what.
Heyo. But I was amazed at how well the first BioShock still plays. And I
Yeah,
don't think they tweak much for the remaster, but
No, I don't have huge problems with the shooting. I mean, I wouldn't say it's the smoothest, but for its time, absolutely.
I think the shotgun still feels great.
The shotgun is
Yeah.
amazing.
it feels so good to you.
Yeah, and the core of it that I never really appreciated before, because like I played BioShock Infinite, and so I was used to dual wielding, because you dual wield in that game, right? With like the tonics and the
Wait, in Infinite?
yeah, don't you?
Yeah, you
Okay.
can. Yeah.
Yeah, but
Oh,
anyways-
you mean switching between plasmids and weapons? For a minute, I thought you meant like dual wielding pistols and shotguns. and
Right,
stuff. Yeah.
right. But that's the thing with BioShock 1 is I'd never appreciated or really knew just how quick you can switch between those two. And I thought it was going to be more of a hassle not being able to dual wield abilities or guns in some way. But like it's so quick and it feels so good to shoot like that lightning bolt, then go up and just
Yep.
shotgun them in the face. Like
Yeah.
when you get in that rhythm, I think it feels fantastic. So I was expecting it to be much clunkier. But what are your guys' impressions going back?
It made me miss demos because
What?
I've got to so I remember the first time I ever played BioShock, I'd never seen anything about it. It was when the demo hit Xbox Live,
Okay.
and it was that demo covers basically that first intro until you get to the Steinman area.
Great demo.
And I remember I played that demo. I've played through BioShock like 4, maybe 5 times, but I've played that intro like dozens because it was one of those demos that immediately like I have to know more about this game.
yeah.
And I think that in this generation we don't have demos that extensive. We don't have something to just bring people in that way. And that first intro to BioShock is like amazing. So it was one of those things where I remember where I was when I played that demo.
It's really
And-
smart for games where it's tough to convey what's special about it. I think it was a smart move on Bethesda's part to release like the first chapter of Doom as well. Like, hey, you've heard a lot of good things about it. Like, here's why. Just play this fast, crazy intro, and you'll get the idea.
Yeah.
Elise, you enjoying it so far?
Yeah, I'm loving it. I'm realizing how much less of a wimp I am.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I've always really been into horror movies, but horror games, I guess, have for a long time I just couldn't play them. And then I think about like 6 months ago, I played Outlast, and now I feel like I can play anything.
I wrote like a prompt for questions and whatnot, and having never really played the game, it was a little bit flying blind. Like, oh, I know what the community thinks about this. I'll just post some stuff based on that. And one of my questions was like, how successful is it as a horror game? Because I was expecting it to be scarier. I am also the biggest wimp, but it's not bad.
It's more spooky than it is terrifying. Like there aren't really that many jump scares, and half the time the enemies like they're coming. They just come at you.
Right.
Like they're running at you. They're not. A lot of the time they're not in the shadows. So for some reason I find that less scary.
Yeah, outside of like the Steinman section, Steinman.
It's a Mega Man boss, yeah.
It doesn't really go into full on horror for me. It's more creepy and dreading and sort of tragic. you know?
Right,
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Which I actually like more than just horror. Because that's what System Shock 2 was. Like that was just full on horror.
Yeah.
And then they sort of messed with that for BioShock and changed it a bit.
Yeah. So on that note, let's see. We got Nigel Stokes who writes in and says, "Hey GI crew, I bought the BioShock collection for this game club and have forgotten how intense BioShock can be. I decided to play on hard, brightness turned down, which is an interesting choice, and with no navigation arrow, and was surprised just how tense the game could be overall.
Okay.
Ammo is scarce on higher difficulties, requiring you to make every shot count, and having to go toe-to-toe with multiple splicers using only a wrench is intense. The scariest moment was when you get the shotgun. I had made my way through the level, picking up ammo for it, wondering where the hell it was and if I had missed it. I turned and saw it lying on the ground, rushed over to pick it up, and all the lights shut off. I muttered curses under my breath as I heard the voices of multiple splicers around me. When the single light comes back on, like a spotlight over you, and they charge out from the darkness, it was just perfect. Great choice for Game Club. Thanks, Nigel.
Hey, he was a good writer.
Yeah, not bad. Fall Down Bear also writes in and says, the part when you get the shotgun and a bunch of splicers yelling in the dark had me frantically spinning in circles and firing my weapons and plasmids in terror of what was in the shadows. And then Andrew O writes in talking about how the medical pavilion really freaked him out. But that shotgun moment is so good. I think that's another big thing that stands out to me about BioShock is just changing up the pace, having a little twist. Just it's so good at inserting little memorable, relatively simple things into the game like that. Like, hey, just turn off all the lights, have a spotlight come down, you get a shotgun. Yeah. You're going to remember getting the shotgun then forever.
Yeah, and it's smart too because most of the time when you get a shotgun in a game, it's a moment of power. You know, it's like, oh, here's the shotgun. I'm going to kill some things now. But like they totally turned that on its head in BioShock because you're shrouded in darkness. You don't know where they're going to come from. And you're still powerful, but it's terrifying.
Yeah. Let's see. We have a lot of people writing in. I asked about like favorite moments in the game. Fort Frolic came up a lot. We're going to get to that a little bit later. But the opening, it was overwhelming. People are in love with this opening. So Lucas Adams says, playing through the game on this gen perfects the already stellar opening moments of BioShock. The plane crashing, the creepy lighthouse, and then your descent in the terrifying city of Rapture all add up to one of the greatest openings in video game history.
Absolutely.
Where does the introduction to BioShock sit for you guys personally on favorite opening moments in gaming?
It's probably number 3 for me.
Wow. Yeah. Top of your head. Okay. What else you got?
Number 2 would be the Half-Life monorail sequence.
Okay.
Which does the same thing. Like they are the same sort of thing that happens. It's a gradual introduction. Half-Life is slower, but there's a gradual descent into horror and explosions and madness. And then my favorite is probably Mass Effect 2.
I knew he was going to say that.
Like it's just like I always think of that opening. It's incredible.
Yeah. But it's unbelievable. That's mine by a mile. Yeah.
I also really liked Infinite's opening.
Infinite's opening is good.
Just a little bit longer, a little bit slower paced. Yeah, for sure.
And that dialogue is great. He doesn't row. It's great.
Blake Willis says the game starts off with an intense moment and a bit of mystery in a confined space, which helps you engage with the player, which helps the player engage emotionally. You get this feeling that there's no way out unless you unfold the mystery, and you can only do that by progressing forward. Brandon Hint says the strongest moment to me from the first half of the game has to be the introduction. From the high tension but still isolated plane crash to the slow discovery of the lighthouse and the grand reveal of Rapture. It sends chills down your spine every time. It's one of the rare openings where you can show a person who doesn't get how games can tell a story in a unique way, and they get it immediately. It's interesting to talk about like the high tension of the plane crash. Like they saved a lot of money by just going to the title sequence. Like, BioShock, you hear the sounds of it, you get the idea. And then I always it's so smart to open with this test where you're swimming in the water, you see the tail of the plane coming out, and it's like, now I'm going to sit here and wait and see if they're smart enough to let it sink. And by God, that plane tail does sink. It's very smart. And then it comes back later and crashes through the whole sequence.
Yeah, I think the most memorable part of that whole sequence isn't even like seeing Rapture or the plane sinking. It's like when you wake up underwater and there's a purse that falls down and then there are pearls behind it. And like that's what I'm always thinking of. It's sort of like the Batman thing, like how Martha Wayne's like pearls just sort of
was she wearing pearls? I don't think any Batman fiction has ever explored those pearls.
Wait,
that's fascinating.
Batman's parents are dead?
Sorry, Suriel.
The thing that I always come back to when I think about that intro is the way, like you said, they saved a lot of money by not having that in it, but like they kind of make you imagine it be like through the logo, because like the way the light sort of shifts on the logo as you hear like the propellers and people yelling and stuff.
Yeah,
that's a really good like thing they did.
Yeah, it's subtle.
Yeah,
subtle.
Yeah, for sure. Also, I think it does a good job out of the gate of like the first time you really see Rapture going down or whatever. And they just throw a whale in there. I feel like it encapsulates what, the team at Irrational does so well, where it's like, this game is going to swing for the fences. It's going for it. Like, here's a giant whale swimming through the city, something that somebody pitched once. Is like, yes, let's do that. Let's put that in there to show that we're going to be big in this game.
I just imagine Ken Levine hearing that pitch going, tell me more.
Tell me more about this whale. And then also, I think the game does a really good job. It's the complete opposite of what Deus Ex did in the last Game Club with showing Montreal, a city you know very well, Elise, where it's like, hey, you're in Montreal, asshats. I don't know, here's some hallways, whatever. Whereas this, it's like, hey, you're underwater. And so much of that intro of the game is reminding you that you're underwater.
Yep.
Like, things are falling apart constantly. Water's rushing in left and right.
And a reminder that it's not a safe place either. I just love that, like, first splicer that you kind of see the shadows of first when you're still in the whatever contraption
bathysphere
thing.
Yeah.
And, I don't know. I love that part because I remember the first time I played BioShock, I was like, I don't know how scary this is gonna be. You know, let's see how far I can go. And my dad was watching me play too, and
I believe in you, Elise.
and he was like super like into it. He was like, oh my god, this is gorgeous, this is amazing. Like, and he doesn't play that many video games, so it's cool. But like, yeah, seeing that like enemy that you don't really face off against, but knowing it's there, and then it kind of disappears and going off, and that was a great way to.
I loved it too. Like the splice in the beginning, I think the first thing they scream is like, I'm going to wrap you in a sheet.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, and maybe this is different for everybody, but I imagine they would put this in. But the second thing I heard a splicer say is, I'm not a bad person. Like that bark as they're attacking you, just to like get that little bit of empathy right out of the gate.
Oh man, it feels so weird going off against those enemies, because like there's part of me that's just like, I don't want to hurt you because I know you're already hurting, and like, you know, but I feel this like huge empathy towards them, like this, you know. And then there's this one part where in the voiceover you hear like, hey, they're wearing those masks because maybe they remember a bit of who they were or something, and they're like sad of what they became, something like that. And I was just like, whoa.
Yeah, that's a voice recording you pick up like in the second segment.
Yeah. That really stuck with me.
There's a woman too, one of her barks is like, she's like, I came down here to be a star or something, like as she's shooting electricity and attacking you. And it's like, it's just a twisted format.
Speaking of memorable lines, I think one of the lines that sets up a lot of maybe not exactly what the situation is, but how people feel about being down here is when you immediately come out and you hear the one splicer say, is it someone new?
Yeah.
Because like, I think that line says so much about what is going on and what you're about to get yourself into.
Right. It's an angel from above, as the little sister says. Yeah. It's just some new blood in there, because in theory, they've just stripped everything down there. Although they left a lot of money lying around, a lot of items and trash cans. You think all that stuff would be heavily looted, but you know, that's fine. Yeah. Javy, why do you come back to this game so many times?
I just really love that genre, like that Dishonored, because I played Dishonored just as many times too, and it's sort of the same action RPG combination that works really well, where you are allowed to pick your approach. Like in BioShock, you can actually use stealth a good bit.
Really?
Yeah, you can use, like, there is a power up you can pick up after you do enough research with the camera that lets you like just go invisible if you're standing still.
Really?
Yeah, like it is not great stealth mechanics, but it is an option.
Okay.
And also, obviously, like the atmosphere and stuff. And I'm also a big fan of System Shock 2. Like I remember, like when BioShock started appearing in magazines and stuff, I wasn't even like a real like gamer, but I'd played System Shock 2 when it came out and I loved it. And like BioShock was one of the games I was getting pumped for, because I mean, like BioShock is considered like probably the biggest like idea of a spiritual successor. Like when people hear that term, it's like, oh, BioShock for System Shock, except maybe for like Wasteland to Fallout or something. But like I'd even go farther and say like it's pretty much like a remake, but just in a different setting, because all they took out from System Shock was like a clunky inventory management system. Like the story is still basically the same.
Wait, to what level is it the same?
Like, I mean, like the bare bone story, like we can save this for the second half because, you know, that would involve some spoilers, but like the same plot. It is the same plot.
Beats, same twists.
Yes, the exact same twist. Like, the same themes. Like it is in System Shock 2.
That's really, I'm trying to think of,
it's System Shock 2 is BioShock in space.
Right.
But like it's not, BioShock to me is better because the setting's better.
Yeah. On that note, Emin Watkins says, it's amazing to see just how influential BioShock was to so many of the games of last generation. Its blend of RPG and FPS gameplay systems have been copied many times since, and even expanded upon in other games. It has the non-linearity of something like Deus Ex Human Revolution, the rarity of weapon plasmid upgrades like Last of Us, and the environmental storytelling of many Naughty Dog games, and stuff like Gone Home. The developer commentaries in the remastered version also make these influences more obvious. Yeah, it's interesting they point out like, oh, you know, it went on to inspire Deus Ex Human Revolution. Like, I think the truth that it's the flip.
Yeah.
Like the first time I experienced that RPG first-person shooter hybrid was the first Deus Ex, and I know that was a very influential game on this team. But it is interesting to think about the consequences of BioShock and where the industry has gone after that. I mean, Gone Home is an easy example. I mean, not only because Steve Gaynor worked on The Minerva's Den and BioShock 2 in general, but where else do you think it is going to help steer the industry?
I mean, I think it made the idea of games that could tackle, you know, difficult subject matter in a sort of blockbustery way. Like it made that approachable. You know, like I think because of stuff like BioShock, we got stuff like Spec Ops. like that is something I believe pretty
Interesting.
hardcore.
2K, yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
I think it launched a lot of games where they kind of question the role of the player. Like, oh, isn't it a little weird what you're doing here? The other thing is that I feel like it launched the careers of many a writer in terms of writing about games.
God.
Like there, you could make the argument that it birthed the hot take in a lot of ways, just because there were so many around that time. Like Twitter wasn't like a big thing, but you saw a lot of blog entries writing about like, I bet you didn't consider this part of BioShock. I bet here's my sort of contrarian opinion about like what this game does wrong or whatever. Like some people were out there like suggesting alternate endings that would have dealt with the game's themes a little better.
It's almost like there's some sort of ludonarrative dissonance in the game that I
Yeah,
can't
it
quite
was-
put my finger on.
It was BioShock, Grand Theft Auto 4, and Far Cry 2 all coming out around the same time
2008,
that
yeah.
you see like all these, blogs popping up. The stuff that would go on to be like Critical Distance, where it's like listing, oh, here's this interesting, critical thought on this game. So yeah, BioShock definitely contributed to games criticism in a big way, though.
I love that idea that like Irrational Games just has the conviction to make a bold, nuanced game, and then that has the ripple effect of affecting press and elevating the press side, and whether it's good or bad, creating 1,000 blogs saying, "Hey, this is what I think's going on."
Right.
So Brendan Hintz says, just talking about the setting, says what stands out instantly about this game is the perfect fusion of setting and real-world philosophy. You are wowed instantly by the fantasy of a city under the sea, and then grounded by the ideals, philosophies, and tone of the Ayn Rand capitalist views. Ayn Rand. I'm terrible at pronouncing it. It makes the game feel both foreign and realistic at the same time. The game also feels part of its time because in 2007, games like Portal, BioShock, Uncharted, and Crysis were all using the gameplay of a shooter that we've all played 1,000 times, and using that gameplay to tell amazing stories and exploring new ideas. It moved the industry forward immensely. Interesting to throw Crysis in that bunch. You don't really hear that comparison too much. But
I like Crysis, but maybe not necessarily because of the story.
I mean, Crysis tells an amazing story. Don't you remember all the beats of that, guys?
I remember the biggest story beat being like, "Oh, the aliens are gonna freeze this place."
Yeah, that's very poignant.
That's true. I read a novel where that was also the case.
Let's see. Just diving into the lore a little bit. Florum Binakaj writes in and says, early on, I picked up a tape recording of a young mother leaving a message for her lost daughter, Masha. The message lets the daughter know that her mother is worried, is looking for her, and lets Masha know where to find her parents, a hotel you come across later in the game. Whilst I initially disregarded the message upon coming across the room, I went back to the message, got the passcode, and unlocked the door. Inside, I found 2 corpses who had died in each other's arms and a mess of pills strewn beside them. Also beside them was another tape detailing how, in fact, Masha had become a little sister and her parents' horror and subsequent suicide upon realizing this. This type of tragedy typifies the whole aesthetic of the game and its world and is mirrored in the early stages of Atlas's storyline with his wife and children being killed. If only more games were as nuanced as this and were brave enough to not force-feed players a dull, paint-by-numbers story.
I mean, it really excels in spatial storytelling, like no other, And I love those, I guess, like, the tales of the dead in a way. Like, in games, gosh, what am I thinking of? Uncharted 4, I remember just seeing a bunch of skeletons and stuff and just kind of being like, hey, like, what happened? Or in Fallout 4 as well. Like, just kind of going around, finding these different corpses, how they're positioned or what they were last doing or a note left behind. But, like, I feel that a lot in BioShock as well.
Yeah.
Just
corpse-based storytelling.
Corpse-based
No,
storytelling.
it's true. It's great.
No. Yeah.
Posthumous characterization.
It does it so well, and I love that.
Or even Last of Us, the kid in his hideout
The
thing.
Last of Us as well, going through the different houses and seeing that.
I forget that kid. I want to say Newt. It's something like that.
I can't remember.
In BioShock 2, they do a good job of making sure that isn't just like, oh, remember this? Here's a short story from beginning to end, because then you find the other audio log in the what was it called, the one with all the trees.
Arcadia.
You find that a log entry where they take Masha to Arcadia, and she's like, "Oh, what is that?" And like, that's a tree, and then she was freaked out by the tree.
Yeah, that's right.
And that goes to tell you, like, that tells you both these characters actually were a part of this world, and this is how ostracized they are from the rest of the.
I was freaked out by how striking and awesome it is when you look out through the glass and then you see the trees out there, like in like those cylinders, basically the Beauty and the Beast rose petal thing. What is that called? The glass domey thing? over the rose in Beauty and the Beast?
A capsule? I'm not
I
sure.
don't know. Let's say capsule. Anyways, that is such a cool look. And they have them inside Rapture and all like looking out into the ocean and seeing trees on the ocean floor. It's so cool.
It's surreal, was what it is.
There we go. Gaurav, who's 36, points out from Niagara Falls, Canada, says, I'm only 2 hours into the game, but one thing that stands out is how deeply invested you become with the story at the heart of this game. I found myself desperately wanting to help save Moira and Patrick. Are those those are Atlas's?
Yeah,
buddies?
those are Atlas's family.
Okay. You mean that like 10 pixel tall sprite Atlas? Hey, up there! I'm going to run over here now. Don't look at me. You know so little about these individuals, but because you're trapped in the same underwater nightmare as Atlas, you find yourself bonding without even realizing it. You care, you want to do the right thing. Atlas needs your help, and you need his in order to navigate this hellish underwater landscape. So we both dive into Rapture together. The story pulls you in right from the get-go.
I think what's interesting is that so much of the narrative is told, through audio. And I wonder if it would still be as effective if Rapture just wasn't, as immersive a setting as it is. Thinking about that, like, just audio, that's, there are some things every once in a while, like coming across key characters and stuff, but like mostly it's all through audio that you're learning stuff. Yeah. And it's strangely very effective.
It is the go-to audio log game. I feel like it kicked off that entire sensation, really, where people are like, all right, we can put this in our game, and it should have audio logs now.
But most of the time, they don't do it as well, just because they go out of their way to make this a thing, because like the first thing you pick up in that game is the radio, and it's like this big bulky thing, and they have it as a design layer when the people come into the frame and to talk to you, and they emphasize like radios are a thing people use to talk to each other all the time in this game. And so that makes the audio logs make a little more sense, because like in later years when every game started doing that, it was sort of like, why would everyone just walk around recording their thoughts all the time? But like here they go out of the way to say, that's the thing people do here.
And that's interesting to me, because I was thinking, because I'm playing through all three of them right now, and I was playing through Infinite, and I had this thought like, okay, these recordings are cool, but why are they just leaving around thoughts? Why are they just taking memos, audio memos? And that's justified in BioShock with what you just said.
Well, I agree it's justified a little bit more, but there's still like silly examples. Like early on, I forget the name of the lady, Mackenzie, I think. But she's talking about like, oh, what a fool I was to fall in love with Andrew Ryan. She's like, why are you attacking me? I'm bleeding profusely. It makes me think of just like in Stick of Truth, the South Park game. Remember when you're on the alien ship and you keep finding all these audio logs?
I don't know. Are those moments supposed to be kind of funny and weird?
I don't think so.
No,
that's
horrifying.
What, audio of a woman being murdered?
Well, we know
there's parts of it that are
what Elise finds funny now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying it's like a perfect implementation, but I think other games took for granted how much you have to work to actually try to make that make sense.
Yeah, for sure.
Another interesting part about that is, at least up until what we've played through, whenever you do meet a human being, there is something like blocking you from like interacting with them. Like obviously there's Atlas a lot. There's the woman in Arcadia. Yeah, there's Tenenbaum. There's always a barrier there.
It does make you feel very alone.
Yeah, and I like that. I like sort of that theme.
That too.
So the radio becomes like a sort of lifeline to other people.
Yeah.
So they make you think about that stuff.
The whole barrier thing, it's very noticeable. I mean, so many games do it. I think that's just a technical thing, right? Like they don't want you interacting with that person. Or do you feel like the whole idea
that
is isolation?
Thematic? I feel like that is. I mean, some of it's technical at least, but like there's like, why is that barrier there in certain ways? Like, as far as we played through, like they take that barrier up later, but we'll talk about that.
Because the one time that barrier isn't there is in Fort Frolic.
That's interesting, and that's why maybe people love Cohen so much, because you actually get to interact with him a little bit by the end there. Oh, because people love Cohen. Good Lord.
He is a great character.
So many emails for this fanfic. My question about the radios, is it implied that Andrew Ryan can like hear you the entire time, or is he just sending out these broadcasts to you? Is he hearing your conversations with Atlas, or is that disconnected?
I want to say they mentioned it at some point, like, oh, we don't want to talk, because I know Standard like blocks those lines of communication at some point.
He's like, enough with those blowhards.
You're right. So it's implied to some degree that it's kind of like an open frequency, but I'm not 100% sure.
No,
if I'm pretty sure because if you were able to listen to every conversation between you and Atlas, I think he would probably have stopped you.
Yeah. There's definitely a part later on, like where Ryan's like, you don't work for Fontaine. You must be with Atlas, which
Okay.
suggests that he's not listening in because
So
he
he's
doesn't
not
know who
fully
you
aware.
are.
The first time he
Yeah.
meets you, he asks whether you're CIA or KGB.
Also,
Yeah.
if I were Andrew Ryan, and I think about this a lot, and I was just sending out 1,000 radio messages, it'd be really tough to do it to a silent protagonist. Like at least every once in a while, I at least like tap on the mic, like, "Are these reaching you? Like, can I just get any confirmation that these
Hello?
messages are going anywhere? Hello,
Right.
is this thing on?
Yeah.
Andrew Ryan here."
I mean, it's just funny to think about Andrew Ryan as sort of this lonely figure in BioShock 2, you know, or in Rapture. Like, talk to me, please.
Just hold up. I have no idea what he's doing. Michael K. Hughes posted on the Facebook group for the game club. I never really questioned it before, but it's kind of strange that Jack speaks in the opening of BioShock 1 and then never speaks again.
Jack's the protagonist,
Right.
by the way.
I don't remember him speaking. Do you remember?
I
him?
He
don't-
does.
What does he say?
What is
Son,
that?
you
He
were
said-
born to do great things.
Yeah, like when he's on the plane.
Oh, okay,
okay.
all right.
Huh.
And so people are saying, without any spoilers, like, "Oh, this ties into things later why he doesn't talk the rest of the
Right.
game." Do you buy that, or is it strange?
They changed that. I guess I'd have to go back and see the original intro, but there's something in that intro that I think looks slightly different. But
Is it the "Would you kindly" on the
No,
note
no,
from
no.
the parents?
no, it's like I feel like he gestures with that package a little more, but I
that
can't.
is a very nitpicky thing.
Yeah, but I mean, I don't know.
I think it does make sense.
Okay.
I think they justify it later on, and we can talk about why.
Sure.
There's so much here, like, you know, the game's plot that's tied into the back end,
Yeah.
and we don't want to spoil it for anyone.
Sure.
So yeah,
Brent Packer, says, "This game is my unicorn. It is the perfect game for me. Back in 2007, you know, like a unicorn is the perfect version
Oh.
of a horse, I guess. Is
I
the
guess.
implication?
It's
Okay.
like a glove. I think would have been. All right, whatever.
It's like an underwater glove. Back in 2007, I bought BioShock with no knowledge of what it was beyond the fact that it was a shooter. As soon as I was throwing lightning with one hand, firing a pistol with the other, I was sold. Then I had my first run-in with Andrew Ryan. His extreme views and insightful but brief communication throughout the early portions of the game kept me going forward. I just wanted to know more about him and how his utopia fell apart. To me, this game is amazing. It gets everything right. Atmosphere, story, combat. Heck, even the puzzles are fun." There's a lot to branch out from with that email. But
Ben is writing no.
where do you
puzzle
guys
bits.
stand on puzzles? On the actual mini games?
I am
the
in
hacking.
Joe was asking me about this the other day while he was watching me play, and I just said I love them. Like, I love the hacking. Like,
Yeah,
it's
hacking
just
is super fun. I like
Like,
it.
it
too.
is so, like, it is the least offensive version of hacking mini games I have ever played.
I think for me, I like the game itself, but my issue is how much time it takes up.
Yeah.
Like it's not like unfun or anything, but there are times where it's like, okay, there's a machine, there's a turret, and there's like a like one of those drones flying around. And if you hack all three of them, that's like 3 minutes you're taking. I'm trying to solve
Absolutely.
this puzzle.
But see, that's an investment.
Right.
But then you have a turret, a flying turret, and whatever cash was in that safe.
Right.
So, you know, I think they justify the time spent.
Have you guys ever hacked a safe? Because those are brutal.
Yeah.
I mean, I
yeah.
use auto hack.
That's why the area.
I've-
I save my
I've
auto
seen-
hack tools for those.
I've successfully hacked one though. I
Oh,
feel
badass over here.
Well done.
Well, you are the Watch Dogs fan, so you know.
She's a
Dude.
real hacktivist over here.
Oh
is
my
not
god!
the time and place for this
We're not going.
I don't mind the hacking. I think it's kind of fun. Like
Right,
if I hacked everything, I'm sure I'd be sick of it. Every once in a while, it's like, yeah, I might go for this puzzle. Do you guys have a strategy? Because I'm just like randomly like, let's clear as much as possible. Ha ha ha, trying to
I
hotbox
usually-
this
Well,
thing around.
I don't know. I just click a bunch of the tiles
Yeah,
until I
right.
have like the one I need, and then I go back and I switch that, and then I keep clicking them.
It's usually useful in the
That's
harder
what I
ones to
do.
like clear just a quadrant of it and then like immediately get like replace whatever pipe the water is going through. We'll hit
Mhm.
next because sometimes later on, especially in the harder ones, you'll have like it'll be shaped like this, like there are only 2 pipes, so you got to move quickly.
Okay.
Mm.
So you don't have the time to clear the whole board and see what your
no,
pieces
I
are.
do not clear the whole board.
Yeah, don't
I
clear the
just
whole board.
go for what I need, and then I go back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Personally.
It certainly beats Human Revolution
In
hacking.
safes, I think the first move is usually swap the 2 pipes in the top
Oh, really?
left
Yeah.
corner because those are
Mm.
always swapped.
Oh, interesting. I didn't know that. Mike Hennessy says, this game blends the aesthetic world with systems exceptionally well. Hacking bots, crafting ammo, items, and photographing your enemies. I was already sold on the characters and story, but being able to research exploitable weaknesses and learn the strengths of your enemies adds a whole other level of approach to your play. In addition to having primary powers, you have all these passive tonics to choose from as well. What systems have you enjoyed the most so far? For me, it has to be the photography. For as much as I've heard about this game, I had no idea that there was like a whole Pokemon Snap element to it with the camera.
That's the thing I always forget when I replay this game is just, oh yeah, there's that whole thing where if you photograph people, like one encounter will be like, ba-ding, ba-ding, ba-ding.
Yeah.
And then score too low and then you just kill them.
Can we get a video clip of that later?
Sure.
Where it's just Suriel doing that?
Is it forgotten about because people don't do it?
I actually didn't do it that much until this playthrough. Like, I had done it a little bit before, but it would seem kind of annoying. But this time
honestly, I'm not that fond of the photography
I
thing.
love it, like, now.
So you get rewards?
Yeah, eventually, like, it starts out, like, you do, like, 2 on an enemy. So let's say one of the bullet head splicers, and, like, the first 2 are like, oh, you'll do more damage against them now. But then on your third one, you'll unlock an extra power. Like, one of them might be, oh, you have more health, or you have stronger physical resistance.
I think that's how you unlock that one invisible thing.
Yeah, one of the invisible ones is the Houdini splicers. So the ones in Arcadia who disappear and are super annoying.
Yeah.
You get, if you progress 3 levels with them, you get the power where if you're standing still, no one can see you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So yeah, I have been liking it this go round, but I was not a fan of it the other times because I just wanted to play with the combat. But I also really like the telekinesis because I feel like that's its own separate game, like this telekinesis power. Because like you can pick up corpses, you can use it to save ammo, you can pick up a mailbox and just kill a splicer with it.
Ooh,
like that's what I've been doing like this whole run through since I've gotten into seeing how many things I could like kill with telekinesis alone and just save.
I love the idea
ammo.
with it that, well, first I had that, of course, experience where I think it's in the medical area where you get it. And I walked in, I'm like, why is there a baseball launcher here? Like, this is just the developers just jerking off. Like, what the hell? What other reason would this be for it to be here? And it's like, oh, telekinesis right behind it. Okay, now that's super smart. Yeah. But then using it just on basic splicers and the fact that it like pulls their masks off, it's like, oh, that's so smart to have some way to interact with all those things.
I also just like shocking them in like bodies of water.
Yeah, it's
always
so
great.
fun.
Always great. Here's
just
something.
that thing they do. It's great animation.
We are insane, but it's great.
So, we have a Tim T who writes in from San Francisco, California.
Oh, really?
Hey, Ben and crew. BioShock has an amazing story, world, tone, etc., but I'm here to talk about the nitty-gritty mechanics. Does anyone else find themselves feeling guilty for not using plasmids enough, or maybe not taking advantage of a wide enough variety? I lean so heavily on Electrobolt, it would make a Lek-man blush.
Yeah, I'm definitely guilty of that. I stay sometimes in my comfort zone for too long. I'm just
100%.
like, you know, I love, like I was just saying, I love shocking them and like opening doors with the shock thingy. You know, I stay with that a lot. Maybe too much.
I've played through the game so much that I've used like all the offensive powers, but I feel that way about the passive abilities. Like, I feel there's so much there, like, to just go through and, like...
It's crazy.
Because I've been buying, for this playthrough, I've been buying a bunch of passive slots more than, like, the plasmid slots because I know which ones I'll use. Typically, it's, like, Inferno and the security one, where you can, like, 6 security cameras on enemies. That one's really fun. But, yeah, mostly I've been trying to figure out, okay, what are my buffs?
Why Inferno?
I just like setting things on fire.
Okay.
I'm going with Electrobolt, and I feel
why
like
would you go anything but Electrobolt? I'm just fully electrified man.
As many times as I've played through this game, I don't think I've ever used the wind one, the one where you set a trap and it flies. I think I've used it once to mess around with it.
That's not the knockback one?
No, that's a different one.
I'm trying to
Yeah,
use
you
the
set a
insect
trap, and then
thing
when
more.
someone walks into it, they like jet up.
And it's hilarious.
It's
like,
hilarious.
It just goes spin.
But I feel like it is not super useful.
Yeah, the knockback one isn't useful initially. Like, I've been playing with that one this go round, but then I upgraded it, and it takes a good bit of your Eve, but it will kill pretty much anything except a Big Daddy on level 2 with one hit. Like, it'll just blow them into the wall and eradicate them.
All right, Elise, you mentioned the bees.
Yeah, I want to use that more.
The bees are cool.
It's cool.
So cool, like the details though of his hand when you use it. Like
I love like when they can't do anything with the hand for stuff like telekinesis. Like, well, how do you show it? So the hand's
like,
just like, look
man,
at me.
I love the
Look at me
effect.
doing awkward
Throwing up
things
a
with my
gang sign
hands.
or something.
Right.
The other thing is that like the frost one, I think that hand is messed up because like it's somewhere between doing this
A fist.
because it looks a lot taller when you're holding the fist, but it also it looks like this as
I think that's an A in sign language.
exactly it looks somewhere between this, and I cannot.
But it's such a cool animation.
I don't-
like, with the things pop out.
Hang on, where is this? I don't have the frost one. Did I miss it?
You buy it.
Wait.
You buy it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So did you guys see the original trailer for BioShock, like way back in the day?
Yeah.
Where they showcased the first power they showcased was the bee. It's like the cinematic one.
They get out of the gate with bees?
Yeah, it's the
Smart.
cinematic one where you're playing either Jack or a Splicer. In the trailer, it's from the perspective of Jack or a Splicer, and he takes on a big daddy to try and harvest a little sister, and he just gets the shit kicked out of him.
Okay.
But at one point, he uses the bee power, and it like looks super disgusting,
Ooh.
like even more like than it does in the game. Like his hand is just erupting.
With like hives, literal hives.
Yeah.
No. It's cool. Is it that good? I only
No.
have it like the base
No.
level, and I've tried
No.
using it, and this is not
I don't
as
think it's
good.
really that effective. It's just so kick-ass. that
Yeah.
I don't want to use
And it
it.
gets back to that. I think a magical thing about the BioShock games in general is they're smart, but they're silly in the right ways.
Yep.
They're silly when it's like, we're swinging big, we're having fun, this is a game. Take it seriously, but hey, we're going to do some bold stuff. We're going to put a whale in there. We're going to have bees come out of your damn hand.
You're really obsessed with that.
You cannot let go of that whale, man.
Well, where'd they get the reference photo? I mean, it's a mythical creature. It's legendary. Anyways, this Tim T jackass keeps writing. He says, anyway, the gunplay is satisfying and reliable enough on its own that I routinely forget about my genetically enhanced powers. Also, I think the split-second switch time between guns plasmids really makes a difference for me. This is where BioShock 2 comes into play, he says. Having both a glowing plasmid-imbued hand and a weapon on the screen simultaneously really changes how I play, and this is why I preferred that game on a mechanical level. Plus, prepping for Big Sister fights was super fun. Anyway, I want to know your plasmid habits and whether you feel like you're sampling enough variety or sticking to old habits.
Wow, he is really asking for personal details here. I don't really feel comfortable talking about my plasmid habits.
Right.
Especially
I
to a
understand.
stranger, you know.
Yeah.
It's a bold move for Jack in the beginning to be in a freaky underwater city and find a needle and be like, well, time to slam this into my
That
arm.
is exactly what I think. I'm just like, that guy is either really brave or really stupid.
I'm going to go with stupid.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's probably the last thing I do in that environment is shove a needle into my
Just
skin.
no hesitation either. You look at the animation, and he's just like, all right, let's see
Needles!
what this
Well,
does.
I mean, there
fake
is.
that
I don't know if it's clean.
It
Where
looks
did
like
it come from?
It looks like a cross between a needle and a quarter water. Like it's so like big and juicy.
Right. P.S. This Tim T character says, I wanted to take a quick second to thank everybody who's been watching the Resident Evil 4 Super Replay. It's been going on at GameFormer.com. Also, apologies for sometimes calling Oswald Sadler. I'm small time. Correct. Learn your Resident Evil
So
lore,
much of that
Tim
was
T.
gibberish for me.
It really was nonsense. Let's see. Talking about bots a little bit. Antonio Bosch says, after reaching the halfway point, I only have a couple of minor complaints. The first is that hacking every single turret, security bot, and camera can get really tedious. Suriel's point. And the second is the research camera, which I find really annoying and frustrating, having to start a combat scenario with pulling out the camera
Thank you.
and trying to take a good pick while the enemy is attacking. I know hacking and research camera are mostly optional, but hacking turrets are really helpful in combat, and taking pictures can give you some decent perks like increased damage and visibility. Nonetheless, BioShock's atmosphere, audio log, story, characters are all top-notch, and while the combat isn't on par with those elements, I still find it enjoyable.
I actually like the idea because I've thought about that too. Like, okay, well, here's Jack just whipping out a camera with the
Cycling
splicers.
through all of his ammo.
But I think it kind of like fits like the slightly kooky vibe of BioShock at times. Like, well, I mean, remember who your enemies are. Like, we're fighting spider people. Like, they are climbing up on the walls and they're coming at you in masquerade mask and hooks. Like, come on.
But I gotta get that photo.
Well, that's not an excuse to inconvenience the player. Like, just don't. You can have it in the weapon wheel. That's fine. Just don't have it on the quick RB cycle. That's all I ask.
Most of the times I played through the game, it's been on keyboard and mouse, so it wasn't that big a deal because you just be
Okay.
like 8 or 9, whatever it was, and just it was like a lot faster. Whereas
Yeah.
this, you have to press the bumper a couple times.
Yeah. What do you guys think about combat this time around? What weapons are you using? What encounters do you like?
Shotgun, baby.
Yeah.
Just shock. Electrovolt,
Shotgun
just
and
vanilla.
telekinesis.
That's a good
And
combo.
machine gun.
Yep.
But
I just love throwing corpses at making more corpses with corpses. Like,
you have a problem,
So you're just
Javy.
stacking up bodies?
no, like you pick up a corpse, a freshly shotgun splicer. There are 2 splicers coming down the hall, and
Yeah.
then you use it like throwing a log at them, and you just kill them.
And they die from it?
Yes, they will die from it.
That does sound really fun. That's probably the most entertaining way to play.
Yeah.
I understand on your 6th time through, you're trying to spice up the marriage a little bit and get something new rolling in there. Yeah, I guess I like the machine gun a lot. I like the pistol.
Yeah, the
I've
pistol's
been
good.
using that a surprising amount.
It is so
Yeah.
much more satisfying than the pistol in Infinite.
Yeah, the kickback on that thing is ridiculous. It's like half this. Yeah.
Oh, look, he's not.
And
he's
whenever
not a
you
fighter.
nail a headshot with it,
Uh-huh.
for some reason it's more satisfying
Super
than like
satisfying.
most headshots in other games. Like it's just I think maybe the way the body falls back, or it's just like ooh.
Or I don't know, or the sound effects too.
Yep.
Just like the whole thing.
My problem with the game so far is just talking about the systems overall is how kind of sporadic it feels, like as far as like weapon upgrades, altering your genes and whatnot. I feel like all that could have been solved by an in-game menu, and maybe they wanted to make it more streamlined than that, but it's just confusing that it's like, hey, if you want to do this aspect of the game, you have to find a station, and then this station's over here for that aspect of the game. It's like I want like a base menu with all my inventory and options for those
But I
things.
feel like that fits Rapture though. You know, the tone of the game, like, okay, here's this mysterious place. It really has its own sort of rhythm and logic to it. You know, like everything being in vending machines. Like, you know, the only one that doesn't make sense to me is the power to the people one. Like, okay, they're giving out guns to overthrow the empire.
Right.
I don't really get that. But besides that, I think all of that makes sense.
Even if Rapture was paradise, like when it was first found and it's just awesome, I cannot imagine anybody would want to live there with this constant welcome to the circus of value, just echoing throughout all the halls. Like
That's
hey,
actually why people went crazy.
I don't doubt it.
You know,
Maybe
that's
its voice is like gone all weird after the years.
you
or
guys.
something.
You guys know that's Ken Levine,
Yeah.
right? Doing
Yeah.
that. Yeah,
I
that's
also
great.
like
Is
the-
it?
I-
Actually?
Yeah, that's Ken
Yeah.
Levine.
Doesn't he also voice one of the other splicers in the
I don't know.
No, I
Fort
don't know.
Frolic?
Probably.
He voices the baby Magnum that's in the carriage in the beginning of that
okay.
one encounter. Let's see. Nathan Keeling writes in with a big topic that we haven't even gotten to yet, folks. He says the Big Daddy may be on the cover, but the little sisters are the best part of the game. The choice to save or murder the girls give BioShock one of the most impactful mechanics in gaming. Regardless of how it's presented, this is a choice to save or murder a child, pretty extreme compared to stealing or giving money in BioWare and Bethesda games. Yeah, those hacks. Also, while most games just move a morality bar when the player makes choices, characters in BioShock actually react to how the little sisters are treated. The complete removal of the little sister mechanic from BioShock Infinite is the main reason I felt like the third game was inferior to the first two. How are you guys feeling about this? Little sisters.
I don't like I have never liked the little sister mechanic ever, just because I feel like it is the equivalent of the BioWare.
Paragon or Renegade?
Yeah, not even Paragon or Renegade.
Mass Effect 3 ending?
No, it goes back further than that. Knights of the Old Republic, like just how absolute it is. Like burn down the orphanage or save the orphanage,
Right.
and that is
Do
not
you-
interesting to me.
Do you feel it's too black and white kind of
Yes.
thing? Yeah, I feel that.
Like
too.
even back
It's-
when I was playing that, I was
I
like,
wouldn't even say it's that intuitive.
yeah, no.
And there's not really that much of a choice because, like, I want to say someone did the math and, like, saving them ends up
It's
being
so-
way
Saving
more
them
of a-
ends up making you more.
So I should always save
obvious
them?
that you should always.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like the
Why,
only reason
haven't
to
you?
like if they actually retooled it so it was like, okay, well, you get a lot more. Or the game was like super difficult to begin with, and like one of the only ways to survive was to like harvest them, then I could understand it being more interesting. But as is,
But I mean, it is definitely a bold move to be, give the player a choice to kill or save a child like that.
Yeah, even if
know,
it is a little in your face.
And it plays into the whole tone of like selfishness that the game has, which is interesting. So
I don't know. I felt like BioShock 2 handled that whole thing better. Like just because there are like 9 different endings in BioShock 2 that revolve around who you kill and whether or not you harvest little sisters, and like so there's just more shades there. So if you're going to go with that mechanic, then there should be more than just like 2 endings. Like there should be a little bit of depth there.
Mhm.
And
Yeah,
BioShock,
it's-
that's one of the better things that BioShock 2 did.
Yeah. I think this is BioShock 1. I think I remember hearing that like the team was trying to make those little sisters as sympathetic as possible, so you'd feel bad for killing them, all that stuff. And that originally one of the pitches from the art team was that it was a dog in a wheelchair.
Dog in a wheelchair. Yeah.
It's such a good idea.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite stories from that old Irrational podcast.
Suriel, come over here. I want to kiss you on the lips.
Don't-
You listened
no.
to the old Irrational podcast too?
Yeah.
It was so good. I
was
talked
good.
about how much I loved it when Ken Levine was on the podcast a while ago, but definitely go dig those out, especially if they're still
The
on
edits
iTunes.
they do in that episode where at the end it's just dog in a wheelchair.
That's right.
Dog in a wheelchair.
Yeah.
Dog in a wheelchair.
That's Sean Elliott's work. I remember that whole thing. Yeah. Let's see. On Little Sister's note, Jonathan writes in and says, the other night while I was playing BioShock, my wife walked into the room just as I was saving a little sister. She was appalled at the writhing child in my hands. I told her I was freeing it, but she had already left. Unclear if this means ended the marriage and walked out the door, or anyways, he's
I
wondering.
love the ambiguity in that story.
Anyways, do you guys save or kill the little sisters?
Save.
Save every
Save.
time.
I've killed a couple just to see what happens. And
Oh, well,
frankly,
you might
I don't
have.
understand what that is or what's happening in that animation. But I've
Oh,
been
with the
saving
slug
them.
thing?
Yeah.
Adam. It's Adam.
So Mike Hennessy writes in again and says, in an audio diary, you discovered that the sea slugs that produce Adam were discovered after people had already inhabited Rapture. How do you think Rapture would have come along if not for the introduction to that immensely human redefining substance? Was Rapture such a bad idea?
Wait. Was that question you or the person?
No, this is Mike.
Yeah, there's actually a tie-in novel that like dives into that. And so much of it's kind of boring because like the first 200 pages are, here's how Rapture was made. Literally, here are the pipes.
It's just like building the ark.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's like, it
Gotta heat
reads
the
like
pipes.
hardcore Legos. But then it goes into like Ryan like trying to run everything in the beginning. And it's one of those
Yeah.
cool things where, because you expect with this sort of story, it's like, oh, everything was wonderful in the beginning.
Yeah.
But it's not. Like they're struggling from the beginning and things
that's
just
a good detail.
fall apart.
Okay, what types of struggles in the beginning? Do you remember?
Money, people bickering about like class stuff. Like from the beginning, like there's a part in the game too where you're getting to the fishing wharfs and you Peach, the guy who tries to
Yeah.
kill you.
Mhm.
Yeah, there's an audio recording where he's like talking about the class divisions, and like that's basically that whole novel. It's just people getting more and more frustrated, and then the overthrow happening, and then violence, and then Adam, and then just going through that sort of stuff.
What did it say
but
about
it's
the
never utopia.
Did it talk about whales?
I don't remember. Probably.
Okay, cool.
I think there was always fundamental problems with Rapture because of its leadership and because of its ideals of entitlement and selfishness. And I think like all those philosophies would have crumbled it anyway.
Yep.
With or without Adam.
Yeah. On the Adam note, I don't understand what's going on with Big Daddies and Little Sisters here. So when I see a Big Daddy walking around by himself, I have no
You
more.
follow him.
Yeah, you
That's
follow
what you
him.
do. You just
Yeah.
You follow him
quietly
until he
follow
finds
him.
a hole and he bangs on it and the little sister comes out.
Unless
Come
you've
out.
already
Okay.
gotten Little Sisters.
Yeah, and then she will
Yeah.
not show up. And
If
you
you-
can look on the menu screen and
You
you
pause
it,
see
it'll
down
show
there.
you how
He keeps trying to warn me, like, "Hey, you're leaving an area, idiot!" And there's still little sisters back there. It's
Yeah.
like, I think I'm good.
Mm.
I saw the Big Daddy walking around. I don't know what else to do.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes it's just not, unless you're going for a completionist
honestly,
thing.
yeah. I don't think I've gotten all the little sisters in all the areas.
I mean, I
and
have
it's-
because I'm
Yeah.
crazy.
Go ahead.
And speaking of
but-
completion stuff, I think it's like not cool that they make you unlock and find the commentary in the remaster.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that's kind of a
And
bummer.
when you
'cause-
find it, it's just like, hey, you found this reel. You can access it on the menu now. And there's like no video controls. Either you play it, and if you press any button, it just exits. And then you have to watch the whole video again. If
And
you
the
wanna watch
reels
it.
are super hard to find
Yeah.
because they
I've
look
only
like
found one.
literally everything in the environment. Like they don't glow or anything. Like it's just like,
weird.
Yeah.
oh well, here's a reel I accidentally clicked on. All right,
That's a
cool.
Bummer. I would like. I know that's a lot to ask for, but I want them just to rip out all that commentary, just like put it in podcast format. I would like love to hear all of it. I just don't.
I'm
really
sure.
want to
I'm
play
sure
it
it'll be up on
again.
YouTube.
My favorite.
Yeah, that's a good point.
My favorite bit was like when I accidentally picked up the first one and it was like, oh, one of these things, and press play. There's Jeff Keighley's face on my screen out of nowhere. All of a sudden, he's like, "I'm Jeff Keighley."
Big
and then
Daddy
I went,
himself.
done.
Big Dad,
You dick.
Big Daddy Keeley is what people used to call him.
Hell yeah. All right, on the Big Daddy front, obviously awesome design. Did not expect them to be that fast for them like charging you like maniacs. I just out of nowhere, but all
They
right.
seem so bulky, but
Yeah.
they're speedy
But I
as
love
hell.
just how like removed from the day-to-day environment they are. Here's a weird reference. They remind me of like the elephants in the Jungle Book reboot that just came out. Where it's like they're in their own world, man. They're colossal beasts. And I love the simple design idea of like having the color of their eyes or like the face thing like demonstrate whether or not they're friendly or angry with you.
Right.
There's so many smart decisions, and I love that feeling of just like they're on their own path. and you can activate this battle whenever you want.
They will not hurt you unless you hurt them.
Yeah,
which is interesting.
I like that they are like all of Jules Verne's work, like just as a single character. Like, well, here's 20,000 leagues under the sea, just walking around with a drill on a hand. But you mentioned their speed. My favorite moment I've had on this playthrough is, you know how you get the crossbow like at Fort Frolic, and you can lay traps with it. Like,
ooh, what?
Yeah, there are bolts
bolts
where you can shoot bolts into a wall, and it'll stick out sort of like a trip line that will shock and like immediately kill any splicer. But you want to save them to use them against big daddies, because it's there are like 3 or 4 of them will kill a big daddy.
Okay.
So I laid out some in one of the Pisidian Plaza, and I was tracking a big daddy.
You mean Poseidon?
Like Poseidon, whatever. Like on a big hunt,
Hey,
like a
Suriel's
safari.
making fun of you, dude.
He is. That's fine. On a safari hunt. And so I shot at him with a pistol, and he did his charge thing, and he just charged straight into like all 4 of them.
Oh, that's good.
And the corpse did like a wheel in midair. Like it's just this massive big daddy, like just cartwheeling into the sky.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, that's my favorite moment
I
so
had a
far.
similar moment with proximity mines where I just laid out 4 of them, and he basically charged all of them, and then just kind of like
It was a launch pad, right?
Yeah. I love, first of all, I love the fact that it's relatively early in the game. They give you the ability to like, oh, by the way, you can convert these guys to your side. That seems like such a late game thing. But like the fact that like in the first 2 hours of the game for sure, you can set up situations where it's Big Daddy versus Big Daddy, and you're like rooting for yours like it's a Pokemon. It's like, this is crazy to throw in the beginning of the game like this. But like I forget what area it was, but I had a Big Daddy and I converted him with the gross green booger ball.
Hypnotize Big Daddy.
Yeah, that's it. Anyway, so I had him converted, and then I was running to the bathysphere to get out of this area. And so as I'm running, you can just hear the T-Rex footsteps behind you, and it's this feeling of like, it reminded me of the Thing game, where you just gotta look behind you every once in a while, like, is this guy still cool? All right, we're still cool. And then keep running. But you never know when like this booming footprints behind you are suddenly going to be the worst thing you could possibly encounter, and he'll flip back to his old self.
I'm really interested, like the lore reasons they never justify some of those powers. Like you would think they're really selling these plasmids to people, like the hypnotize the Big Daddy.
Oh, right,
really?
right.
Like you're really giving that to people to buy. That is a thing they can use.
Hey, so that's the power of the free market. Man.
Do they not deserve it with the sweat off their brow? Let's see. So, Fort Frolic and other memorable areas. A lot of people wrote in talking about their favorite things. That was like my favorite topic that people wrote in on, just like the favorite segments and sections and whatnot. Jeremy Bowles says, the strongest moments are definitely the reveal of Steinman in the medical pavilion and all of Fort Frolic. They really give you the rise and fall of Steinman, and the way he is finally presented to you, and the payoff moment is absolutely chilling and makes you instantly go, oh, so this is what the game is all about. Yeah, a little freaky. Is also one of like, I think this game is incredibly well done. I don't think I've really expressed that, but I'm really enjoying the hell out of it, much more than I expected. Turns out it's a good game, you guys. But
Really?
every once in a while, those moments where it's like, all right, Irrational, like cool a little bit. Like when you go to like the medical pavilion and it's written in blood, do no harm or whatever. It's like, okay, guys, this is like 9th grade horror movie stuff. But all right, we can move on here. But freaky area, I enjoyed the concept. That one audio log where he's talking about, has like, hey, Picasso got bored of the human face and wanted to redesign it. Am I not giving credit for redesigning this stuff?
That's a really cool, like, itchy, tasty arc where it starts with, like, you know, we have this atom and it's pretty cool and I can bend, you know, the human genome or whatever, like the human body to my will. And at the end, he's just like, why don't I just go up straight? Like, they do a really good job of laying out how, it's like step by step, how he went insane.
I also like the audio log that you find. Maybe it's during the boss fight with him. I guess you'd call that a boss fight. Would you guys call that a boss fight?
It was
Like,
pretty quick. It was one of those situations for me. Maybe I'm just an idiot, but like, oh, there's a corpse on the ground. Oh, I guess that was him. Okay, bye.
But where he's working with the nurse on someone.
Yeah.
That's super creepy.
It is really creepy. And she's like, stop.
Yeah.
That's where you called it quits the first time, Elise. You're like, nope.
Like, leave around there.
This is where Elise pieced out.
I'm like, nope. But, you know, this time around, I'm strangely fascinated by his passion. Just let me go. I know I sounded like a crazy person, but like he's an insane guy, but like it kind of reminds me of Come on,
He's
listen
not
to me.
so bad.
No, I like the idea of you. Look, guys, Steinman's a bad guy, but
He's a no, but it reminds me of Dexter. You know, it's not better.
okay.
But there's that it's not a good passion, but there's this thing in his voice that's so enthralling to me.
He's got a good radio voice. I will give you that.
It's just it's creepy, but it's just like a really screwed up artist.
Well,
A
Elise,
screwed up-
you have sold me on him. I would bring him home. to
Wait a
my
minute.
parents.
Are we talking about Cohen?
No, I'm talking
Steinman.
about Steinman.
Okay.
I mean, they're
A
both
different kind of screwed up artist with a soothing voice.
Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
they all have soothing voices, especially Andrew Ryan. I could listen to him all day.
Oh, really?
Andrew
I-
Ryan.
I really could. Anyway.
Some of the accents are a bit much.
Oh,
It's
Atlas is the worst.
yeah, Danny O'Dwyer over the radio here, just coming in
He's
strong.
one of my favorite characters. The pipes freeze. That's a classic audio
what's her
log.
name?
What is it?
McDowell. What's his-
McDonough is
Yeah.
I think his name.
Yeah, he's actually the protagonist of the novel of the
Is he
title
really?
novel. Yeah.
Wait, what's the
Um,
pipes freeze audio log? I don't remember this.
where there's like that one area we have to incinerate to continue, and he's telling the Steinman about how if you don't heat the pipes, the pipes
yeah.
freeze, pipes freeze, pipes burst.
Because
That's
he's
right.
the engineer of
Yeah.
Rapture, so he
Right.
gets really frustrated with everyone over stuff they probably think is bullshit.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
What do you mean? It's an underwater city. How hard is it to maintain? Come on. He's like the one guy who's
And he's
holding
like-
everything together.
Yeah.
This is so hard.
Yeah,
you
he's
guys.
Rapture's Margaret. For
That's a deep Game Informer reference to somebody in
That's
production.
very inside baseball.
Yeah, you all know her. So Hunter says the first half of the game is really great, but it really opens up at arcade. By the way, if listeners are wondering what that terrible sound is every once in a while, that's Javy who's violently sucking off a water bottle like a baby wolf on the mom's teat, and he does it directly into the mic every time. I don't know what he's getting at.
you are welcome.
Anyways, okay, first half of the game is great, says Hunter, but it really opens up at Arcadia, which is one of the coolest environments in the game to me. Fort Frolic is by far my favorite series of events in the whole game. This game is definitely one of my favorites of last gen and of all time. So Arcadia specifically calling out as a great one. Jeff carries on that thought. I love the idea of a forest underwater. Both the forest and the farmer's market feel like they could be real places. You would need bees to keep the plants alive, and that was well thought out. Do you need bees to keep plants alive? To
They
pollinate
definitely help.
flowers,
As
but
far as my knowledge is, they
trees?
Yeah, I mean, none of us. I don't think any of us are botanists. So
If you're a botanist, write in. Let us know what
Yeah.
bees do.
Wade, are you an expert on this?
Can bees also come out of hands? I've been wondering.
Oh, that's a thing.
sometimes.
Okay, we need an entomologist
I've seen
also
that
to
YouTube
write
video.
in. So also Jeff says, love the soundtrack, lots of recognizable songs. Also, who doesn't want to have a gunfight while the Waltz of the Flowers plays in the background during the Fort Frolic Center Cohen section?
I don't know. I don't want to have a gunfight in real life. Period.
Oh,
Who doesn't want to
well.
shoot people, says Jeff. He says he loves Sander Cohen. He's the perfect evil genius artist. I got stuck trying to get into the auditorium for the first time. Didn't see the button on the elevator. Same here. I like how you can put your pictures in any spot on his masterpiece that you want. I didn't know that.
Yep.
One of my pictures didn't come out. It was just a gray screen.
That's the most open moral choice in that whole game. Is where you want to put the pictures. Of
That's
the,
right.
of the
I
good
get
people.
masterpiece or not.
I do think Fort Frolic is one of the best bits in the game because it's the first area where you go, like everything before that you can justify as I'm defending myself. But like it's the first part in the game where someone like actively orders you to murder someone else, and the people you are ordered to murder are not good people. Like when they see you, they try to kill you. But it's the
One of them freezes you, for Christ's sake.
Yeah, but like before that, like everything else has been okay. I'm defending myself against these splicers. Is like I'm going through this hellscape. But like to progress, I actually have to go hunt down these people.
Yeah.
Right.
Like it's kind of disturbing.
There's definitely like that is such a tonal shift just because like before it's like I just want to get out, and then in Fort Frolic you are consenting to like whether you want to because ultimately like you're doing it to get out, but you are sort of agreeing with Cohen that you're gonna work. This is
like
the way
it's
it's gonna
contract
work out.
killing.
Right?
Yeah.
Exactly.
And it does a good job of just breaking up the pace a little bit. It's after like the big holdout shootout where you have to like wait for the cure and pump through the vents and all that
Right.
stuff. And then right after that, it's just like, hey, he gets on the radio and says, hey, those two blowhards, they're going away. Let's just relax. Here's a nice soothing voice. Here's a beautiful show with like purple lighting and just amazing art. Let's really take our time. And even like later on, it has enough little moments that break up the typical structure for BioShock that stand out where like the splicers are on the ceiling and there's like the spotlight on them. Not to mention the huge finale, which he mentions to the Nutcracker Suite music as you're in that giant shootout. Just bold little twist that like we were talking about earlier where it makes it so memorable. And it's so much bigger than I expected.
Right.
I think that's another reason it really stands out to people. Is like, there's a lot of ground to cover in
There's
this
also
space.
a lot of one-off moments, like when you said that the one guy freezes you.
Yeah.
And like that is one of the few times that game takes control away from you,
Mhm.
and you're not even aware of how much time has passed since you freeze, but eventually, you just break out.
It's been 30 years.
Yeah, it's interesting to me because like those little touches you were talking about are the difference between this being padding and this being like, oh, an essential part of the experience. Because if you like break down BioShock into like a plot and you have to explain this section, it's like, oh, well, here's an interruption where you have to go do a bunch of bullshit fetch quests.
Right.
Someone is going to go like, that is padding. But like, no, Fort Frolic is amazing.
Mhm.
And I was thinking about that because in BioShock Infinite, there's a level that's called Heroes Field. That's like that, where you're basically like going on a series of fetch quests for a character named Cornelius Slate, and it's like the analog to Fort Frolic, but it doesn't work. It just feels like a series of fetch quests as opposed to something that's fascinating.
Because it doesn't have enough bold moments in it?
It doesn't have enough bold moments. It feels like a retreading of that. Like it's just relatively uninteresting. Like there's a man shouting at you over the PA, but like none of what he said, like his personality isn't as interesting as Cohen's at all.
It's tough to top the Cohen voice acting too.
Yeah.
I would say that in BioShock 2, I think Gil Alexander is probably a better voice overall.
Okay. Who is that in BioShock 2? I don't
He's
know.
He's your bud,
Okay.
right? Is that
No, is he your bud? He's like the he's like one of the because like in BioShock 2, it's like a series of people.
Oh,
that are
yeah.
messing with you.
He's the Sander Cohen
like,
in BioShock.
Yeah, he's
too.
like one of
Okay.
the last ones, and he's like some crazy guy that's I think at the end he's just looking through you through this big eye or whatever.
Yeah.
Okay, right on. Andrew O says, I think the whole Fort Frolic level is the best part of the first half. Sander Cohen is a fascinating character because he's so unpredictable. He comes across as an overdramatic artist at first. Could it be that he's actually sane? Oh no, he blew the hell out of that dude on the piano. And he's posing people in a disturbing art display. But he seems so mellow. Until he thinks you're a doubter and sends everyone in Fort Frolic after you. But it's okay, he just lost his temper a bit. He's fine now. Just a crazy character. And I love every minute of it. It's very much like a Joker-esque appeal of like, if you just have the craziest possible character, they're going to be memorable, it turns out. It's a fun template.
Did you guys kill him?
I
At the
tried it, and then I saw that he sent in a wave of nut jobs, so then I just loaded my save where I didn't. Does that matter?
I mean, you get
There's a
you
little
get, you
bonus,
get some med kits and some money.
What was the deal? We came over, and he's like, good job, my little baby, or whatever he says. And he has like...
little moth.
Thank you. And he has 2 little canisters. He's like, if you did a good job, I would give you this one, but here's this one instead.
That is, well, I don't know how much we want. Well, okay, so you
If
can
this
get
is a
into.
spoiler, I don't want to know it.
Well, this is just about whether or not you kill him, basically.
But that is before you have the choice to kill. Well, I guess. But I just didn't know if I played through that entire section better if he would have unlocked the other canister for me.
No, it's if you kill him, you get the other.
Oh.
If you get that other chest.
Yeah, you kill him, you get the key from him, and
Oh,
go unlock
interesting.
it. And there are med kits and
Yeah,
money and
it's
something
not-
else in there.
It's not. If I remember correctly, I don't think it's something super major. That it's
Okay.
it's just like a lot of supplies.
Yeah, and it's actually more hassle usually to kill him than go through it. But I was
looked
really
like a
annoyed
lot.
with him this time, so I just straight up blew him to pieces.
To pieces. Antonio Sanchez says the way the world is set up, the characters, small snippets of dialogue from the enemy NPCs makes everything feel so fleshed out in the game. Prime example is Sander Cohen. The whole artist turned psychopath angle is played off very well. My favorite part has to be when you just stand there as he forces a splicer to play the piano, only to blow him up when he starts begging to be let go. That small interaction alone made Fort Frolic a really enjoyable level.
R.I.P. Kyle Fitzpatrick. That's his name.
Good memory.
Yeah.
Yeah, clearly some people on the Rational team had some traumatic piano lessons as kids. It's just like the worst possible.
I think it's always
implementation.
weird when artists write about artists because you're not sure how much of it is autobiographical. Obviously, Ken Levine is not insane or
Ken
whatever.
Levine saw his brother get blown
But
to
like-
bits playing a piano.
But like how much of like Cohen's own insecurities as an artist plays into like some of the team's sort of like I don't know what we're doing because like one of those audio logs is about like him reviewing another person's play. It's like I can't believe you like this, and like
Right.
it's like it's terrible when she's not boring. She's dangerous or
Yeah.
so,
That's a good point.
and it's like a good example of like artists trying to say like I have a gut reaction that I don't like this person, but I'm gonna try to make that gut reaction meaningful.
Right.
So yeah, it was kind of it's a little bit unsettling in that way.
Sebastian Castillo says, I believe the strongest moment from BioShock is definitely Fort Frolic. Throughout the game, you have been accustomed to the typical crazy splicers, but you never experience somewhat of a person like Sander Cohen. The whole atmosphere of his fort, the figures, the dialogue of the people he has photographed for his grand masterpiece, and even his poem, The Wild Bunny. What's he saying? The bunny took off its mask 1,000 times over and over again.
I can't take it off.
There we go.
Yeah,
Thank
and then
you.
some cursing.
Is that a poem? Or is it just a rambling of a
Anything
madman?
can be a poem.
That's right. This podcast, technically a poem. We put it in the poem category on iTunes.
As we should.
That's right. It's the only place you can find it. That's it for reader feedback. Any other big topics that are listed out to you guys after playing through all this?
I mean, it feels like we covered like so much.
This is Game Club, baby. This is what we do.
What do you guys
feedback.
think about Andrew Ryan in particular as a character?
I think so far, if we're talking about what we know to what we've played up through, I think he's interesting, and I want to know more about him.
Yeah, I maybe
Well
not as
put.
intrigued as some of the people are. I mean, I assume he gets more intriguing once you know the full story.
Yeah,
as of
definitely
now,
in the latter half.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. As of now, it's like, oh, he's that guy. I guess I'd like to meet him at some
He's the
point.
man who's screaming at you from time to time, or he is stern dad. Like that's what I think of when I think of Andrew Ryan, like expressing disappointment in you with like a lecture. Yeah, he's always lecturing you.
Do you also consider Andrew Reiner to be a stern father figure, Davey?
Yeah, the stern father I beat the crap out of in Super Replay Showdown.
Holy
whoa.
Lord.
Right.
Calling Dr. Freud. I don't know. Anyways, yeah, are you intrigued by him, Elise?
Yeah, I mean, I find he has twisted ideals, which is just part of the whole experience. But yeah, no, it's interesting so far.
Yeah. I'm really struck by how accessible this game is. I think it does such a good job of, like, there's a reason why it was such a widespread, why it spread so far, why people who played a game every once in a while like check this game out. To have that bold of a vision coupled with crazy accessibility. This game isn't a pain in the ass to play at all. It's,
Right.
it's the first.
It holds up really well.
Yeah, I mean, outside of
It
Uncharted
does.
4,
It
it's the
really
first
does.
Game Club game to be like, this is fine. I always know exactly where to go. It's never a hassle. Outside of the game crashing every 3 minutes, I think it's totally
Yeah.
fine.
I think I would never play without the quest arrow.
Yeah, is that tough,
I-
Suriel?
Nah, I mean, having already played it,
Yeah.
like I knew where to go,
Sure.
but that it hasn't
I would
been
still
that.
get lost anyway, honestly.
It made me
Yeah.
appreciate a lot of like some of the ways it does guide you. Even like you don't need it. Like it's harder, but you realize you don't need it. once
Yeah, that
you-
was like the major change, the biggest change they made from like System Shock 2 to BioShock, because System Shock 2, like the ship is a labyrinth and you have to like retrace your steps and go like all over the place. There's a lot of backpedaling. I mean, not backpedaling. What's the word?
Backtracking.
Yeah, backtracking. That one. But Rapture's pretty straightforward.
There's still a little bit more than I expected. I guess I don't remember hearing people talk about it, but collecting all the little bits to assemble like the gas cure. Sorry, I don't remember the exact technical name. for it. Going through the
something
The
better.
Lazarus
The-
serum.
Right.
Lazarus factor.
right. That
Yeah.
required
One of those words.
Maybe I was
Yeah.
just a little bit lost, but it was a lot of going back to those areas again.
But no, I mean like you would have to go back to the beginning of System Shock 2, like the opening area from like
yeah.
the middle area, instead of like just not the place you're in, like the area you're in.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Okay.
Biggest complaints, and we talked about what a pain in the ass it is to hack them, but just those security bots in general. Has any game ever been improved by adding a flying enemy?
Super
Does anybody like
annoying.
those?
I mean, I like them when they're my buds, when they're my
Okay,
pals.
great.
Like they are super useful if you're out of trap bolts and you need to take on a big daddy.
I feel like the sound of a mosquito constantly buzzing by your ear in the game, but
I love that.
do you really?
Yeah, I
You're
love
a
it.
maniac, JB.
Oh,
You're a
man.
madman.
I've never disagreed with that sentiment.
Isn't there like a tonic or a power up or something that reduces the time?
Yeah, I have that on all the time because I really am frustrated because I don't.
They're so easy to activate accidentally.
That's the thing, and like the opposite of what you mentioned, I don't think of this game as a stealth game, and so suddenly every once in a while being reminded, like, oh, there's a security camera. I guess the way you want me to play the game is to constantly be scanning every room for security cameras first. Like that's not. I know it's the first time playing it, but that doesn't feel like BioShock to me. Like that's not what I want to do here.
I do like that they give you the option, because so many games with security cameras, if you shoot the security camera, it's, oh, well, you're getting spotted anyway. Enemies going into lockdown mode. But if you just shoot them, there's no consequence to it. And you might get
Right.
some film for your camera. So,
That's true. And then I could take pictures of all sorts of things. Yeah. That's the biggest hassle is just those bots. And I'm constantly out of money because I'm constantly running over to the slot machine to like, hey, shut this down. Another
Screw
great
this.
another great mechanic for the citizens of Rapture to have. Like, hey, you want the police off you? Just put $10 in this machine.
I committed murder, but you can get me out of this, right? Here's $10.
Hey, what do I got to do here? Hey, the invisible hand, baby. All right. BioShock Part 1, everybody. In the can.
Yeah, fun times.
Yeah. So 2 weeks from now, does anybody know what date that is?
No.
Early October.
That's
Hang on a
very
second.
Early October. I think.
October 5th.
Suriel, I think that it is, well, basically. So October 6th is when the next episode's going to air, covering the back half of BioShock 1. So, hey, everybody, beat the game. Let's talk about the ending. Let's talk about what you learned about Andrew Ryan. Any other good discussion points you want people to write in about Javy without spoiling things?
Right in about the twist.
Write in about the twist.
You will know what we're talking about.
Okay.
Even if you haven't played the game yet
Sure.
or before. Yeah.
It'll be fun because I wrote down what I think I know about the game early on, and I'm curious to compare that to how it actually ends up. So that's it. October 6th, next episode. Thank you so much for writing in. Thank you so much for playing along with us. It's really generous. I'm surprised by the number of people that are like, yep, I'm on board for this remaster. It's perfect timing. I've wanted to replay it anyway. So it's a fun one. It's a good one. Yep. All right.
That's a lot of fun.